Hey guys, and welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast, the podcast where you find new friends and new music. Joining me on this week's episode is a singer-songwriter who co-wrote one of the biggest songs from last summer, CJ Solar. And CJ, thank you for jumping on with me, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. And let's start by letting everybody kind of get to know you a little bit. Give us the Wikipedia version of CJ Solar. Where'd you come from? How'd you get into music? That sort of thing.
Man, I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I started playing guitar when I was 7 or 8, and started taking lessons a little bit after that. And my little brothers and I started playing music together, and we gigged around Baton Rouge for a little bit. And I started getting into country music, found out about Nashville when I was in middle school, and really got into like songs and songwriting and stuff. And I thought Nashville seemed like a cool place. So when I graduated high school, I moved up here and went to Belmont University and, played around Nashville and a little bit out of town while I was at college. And right before graduating, I signed a publishing deal with a company called Seagale Music that Brad Paisley and another buddy, Chris Dubois, own. And I've been there since 2014 and released a couple EPs and had songs cut by Jared Neiman, Justin Moore, a couple Texas artists, and I had my first #1 last year with Morgan Wallen's Up Down. And yeah, man, just excited to keep pumping out music of my own. I got some other cuts coming out on some other big artists that I'm pretty excited about, and just rocking.
There you go. And you're making a name for yourself there, just writing some songs, some bigger songs for some other people to cut. But you're actually, I find this kind of weird. You're not the first Louisiana country artist that we've had on this podcast. We had Dustin Saunier back a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And Louisiana country music kind of has its own little feel, I guess, right?
Yeah, man. Louisiana just kind of leaves a print on us. I don't know what it is, but there's just kind of a soulfulness kind of thing that I feel like so many people from Louisiana have with any kind of music that they're playing. But yeah, man, Dustin's awesome. I'm a fan.
Dustin's a great guy, and I'm excited to kind of see where he goes, but excited to see where you go as well. And you said that you moved from Louisiana out to Nashville, went to Belmont. Was it the songwriting major in general that drew you out there? Was there, was Belmont just happened to be in Nashville, or what was it?
Yeah, man, I think it was mostly that, I felt like I should go to college of some sort. And, Nashville was where, Nashville was Music City, especially for what I was doing, kind of, country music. So I was either going to stay in Baton Rouge and just play around Baton Rouge and keep doing what I was doing, or come, take a stab at trying to write songs for the big boys and give it a shot. And man, it's been a crazy ride, and I've been incredibly fortunate to have songs recorded by people I look up to and get to open for a bunch of my heroes, and still keep crossing things off the little bucket list. And it's pretty crazy.
Well, and when you were at Belmont, you were in the songwriting program, right?
Yeah, I was. I did my major was songwriting, and I minored in music business, which pretty much just meant that I didn't have to take like economics and accounting. So
you did exactly what I did and dodged the big math classes.
Yeah,
that's a good move by you. But so how much did Belmont kind of shape what you're doing? Obviously, the music business minor probably helped you kind of understand the business a little bit more, and songwriting helps you write songs, of course. But,
totally.
But what kind of, obviously it's Belmont, it's in Nashville. Is there any connections that you made there that really kind of helped you springboard into what you're doing?
Well, obviously the location is huge. But some of the professors that I had were really great and knowledgeable, and, kind of gave a little bit, of an insight of what it's like to be a professional writer, because, you really don't even know what it, being a professional writer is. You have no clue what it's like until you're really kind of in it. And it's a really interesting, world of just, it's such a small community. But it was really cool to learn about that. And I got hooked up with Seagale through an internship, which my last semester at Belmont, I needed to intern one more time. And I had a neighbor who just happened to get hired at Seagale a few months before I needed this internship. And I said, hey, dude, I kind of need an internship. I hate to bother you about music stuff, but if you know anybody looking, he goes, well, man, I just started over at Seagale. I could see if they could get you in. I said, dude, that'd be amazing. So he brought me in over there. And about a week or two in, the VP of Creative, Mike Owens, was like, hey, man, we know all of our interns pretty much are aspiring singers, songwriters, or whatever. If you have anything you want to show us, we'd be happy to listen. And I said, well, man, I just actually demoed a couple new tunes. I could bring them in. He said, yeah, dude, just bring them in whenever you want. So the next time I'm in there, I've literally just got my CD ready to go. And he happens to walk through and he goes, hey, man, I wasn't kidding. I got that. And I was like, I got the CD right here. And he goes, well, hell, let's go listen. So he popped in his office and he goes, man, I got time to listen to one or two. And I had 7 on on the disc. And we listened to the first one, and I could tell he was like a little surprised. And he was like, man, that's pretty good. You mind if we, let's keep listening. So he ended up listening to the whole CD. And he goes, dude, I'm not going to lie, that's way better than I thought it was going to be. And he was like, do you mind if I show some of the other writers? And I was like, yeah, dude, for sure. Some of the other people. And so he showed Chris Dubois and a couple of the other writers. And I guess they seemed to like it. And a week later, he called me and said, hey, dude, would you come in a little early for your internship tomorrow? We'd love to chit-chat about some other stuff. And I said, sure. So I came in like 30 minutes early, and they're like, hey, man, we want to sign you. And I was like, holy crap.
Well, that's a turn.
Yeah, so they were like, this doesn't happen a whole lot, but, we were kind of looking for, somebody that kind of fit your vibe. And, we think your songs are really good and your singing's cool. And, we'd love to have you, sign on. And I was like, oh, my gosh. So that was, January, February of 2014. And it's been a really great place to be kind of my musical home for the last 5 years, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, because it's a really great spot.
Well, and I know for some people, the creative types, if they're presenting their art to somebody and really kind of looking for a critique, it's kind of a nerve-wracking thing. With somebody like you, who's a musician who day in, day out goes up on stage, I mean, is that still nerve-wracking for you to sit in that office as he's just picking through 1 or 2 songs? And obviously, he ended up liking it, so it turned out well for you. But just sitting there, was that kind of hard to sit there?
Man, it's always a little nerve-wracking when people are hearing music for the first time, and you're literally watching their face, trying to just, you're trying to tell, do they like this? Do they hate this? And it's kind of the same thing when you're opening for, like bigger artists and a lot of the fans that are out in the crowd you have never heard you before. And if you're throwing a lot of original music at them, it's almost like that kind of feeling every night where you're trying to win these people over. And, when you're on stage, you can win them over a little bit more with the show or so than maybe the songs. But like, when you're just sitting in an office and somebody's, across a desk from you, and you're just really hoping that they like your songs, it's definitely pretty nerve-wracking. But it wasn't the first time I'd ever met with a publisher, so and I had gotten to know these people a little bit from interning for about a week or two. So everybody had been super cool already. So I was definitely nervous, and I was hoping that they were going to like the songs, but I had absolutely no clue that there might be the chance of them going, wow, we want to sign you. So, I guess I didn't really have that in the back of my mind, which maybe made me a little less like, oh, wow, they're going to, I didn't even think that the possibility of them signing me. I thought, he might give me some feedback and, maybe, I don't know, just, some advice and stuff. So whenever it was like, hey man, these are actually really good. I was just like, oh crap. I was like, I thought they were good, but I didn't know they were like, I didn't know.
Yeah, and well, I mean, and then from going from him, and then getting in front of the other writers, like guys like Chris Dubois. I mean, that's kind of that's got to be even worse, or I guess better when they're like, yeah, we like it. That's great.
Yeah, dude, that was actually that was really nerve-wracking, getting in the room with a lot of guys, because I hadn't really I'd written with maybe one or two published writers before that, so it was I'd pretty much all just been buddies who didn't have publishing deals, so it was kind of like that's really nerve-wracking, because I mean, you can have really great sounding songs that you've written with other people, that you can take into a meeting and impress them because you're just playing a CD, and opposed to like having to come up with stuff in the room with freaking super pro Hall of Fame type guys, and you're just like, oh my god, how am I gonna freaking compete with these guys? But not compete, but just keep up with them. And fortunately, so many of those guys that especially stick around that long are really cool, and embrace the young writers. And because I found out that the older guys kind of need the younger guys about as much as the younger guys need the older guys, because they need the fresh ideas, the fresh vibes, and the younger guys, especially when you're first starting out, need that, like, keeping you on the path of commercial hit sounding song, but crafting. They have the craft down. They know how to spin a lyric. They know how to do all that stuff that maybe when you're brand new you don't quite know how to do, at least as well as you could. So it's really cool to just the whole co-writing process in general is just really great. And when you can get in the room with super pro guys that have a bunch of hits, they almost all of those guys that have been around know what they're doing, and it's pretty amazing to learn from them.
Well, and songwriting's kind of an odd job, we'll call it, just because, if you go into an office and you hate Cindy who sits 2 cubicles down, you guys can still hammer out a report if you need to, but it's got to be real tough to write a song and get that creative and be that open around somebody if you don't like them.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. And there's so many people around Nashville that, if you for some reason hit a snag with somebody and end up, having, not really liking them for whatever reason, you don't have to, you don't have to work with those people. I mean, you can still be cordial, and just, most people kind of get it, if it's not clicking, it's not clicking. So that's a huge process. Part of the process when you first get signed is figuring out who you like writing with and who you don't. And, it's really crucial, because you could end, if you really bring it on the first time you get into the room with a Hall of Fame writer, they could become a regular co-write for you if you and them just hit it off. I mean, depending on how much you bring it, it's like you could be writing with Hall of Fame guys every day if they're all impressed by what you do. So it's a really crucial time, that first year or two. And really trying to knock it out of the park on your end every time you get in the room, really with anybody, but especially those big hit makers. If you can ever get in the room with those guys, you want to make sure you got good ideas, you got good riffs, you're well prepared, and make it look like that you appreciate them taking the time to work with you, and are kind of bringing something to the table, as opposed to just sitting there and going, oh my God, thank you so much for riding with me. What do you have? They don't like that so much. So, but it's pretty cool.
It's a good time to kind of shift gears and talk about your writing style then. So, just listening to music, you've got some of that Southern rock sound, but it's not quite Leonard Skinner. How, if somebody hadn't heard you before, how would you describe your sound to them?
Man, I guess the way I've been saying lately is it's Southern rock inspired country music. So, it's like, when other people record my songs, it's just country music. But whenever I record whenever I play them, I've just got this hint of Southern rock kind of vibes that I just kind of put on everything I play. And, that's just the stuff that I grew up on and influenced me, and the songs that I, was playing when I was a little kid. And, it's just kind of part of my sound. So even when I'm writing the poppiest songs ever, I can somehow make them feel like they're a little Southern rock, which is interesting. But yeah, man, I mean, I feel like I write songs that, I fell in love with country music, country radio when I was in middle school. And, Montgomery Gentry's, the Tim McGraw's, the Jason Aldean, Eric Church, those were the Brad Paisley, Blake Shelton, Dirk Spinley. That was the stuff that, really got me hooked on country music. And, but I was, by the time I was really getting into country music, I already kind of had a little bit of that Southern rock background from when I was even younger than that. So it was like, those kind of were my two favorite genres. So I just kind of started, when I started writing my own stuff, I was pulling inspiration from pretty much those two genres, and it's just kind of in the way that it comes out.
Well, and when you sit down to write something, does your writing style differ between, what you plan on having somebody else cut versus when you write a song and that you want to keep that for yourself?
Man, it really doesn't. I mean, sometimes an idea comes around and I just go, man, this idea is perfect, for what I want to say, my message, blah, blah, blah. And that's, sometimes I will really, really hone in and try to make sure that the vibe that I put with that song really, fits what I want to do. But I'm not always chasing that. I'm usually, it's just like, whatever the best idea, best groove, best riff, whatever the best thing we got in the room that day is usually what I want to write. And if it happens to be, a sad love song, then that's what we're going to roll with it. If it's a party song, it's just whatever the best idea that's in the room is what I want to be a part of. And, sometimes it fits me and sometimes it doesn't. But, when you write, especially the first couple years of being at Seagale, writing 5 times a week, at least once a day, you end up just stacking the songs. And, just had so much material, that I've just had, just a ton of stuff to choose from every time I go to record a little record or EP or whatever. It's pretty hard narrowing it down, but I guess that's a good problem.
Well, most certainly it is. I mean, I would rather have too many songs than not enough. Yeah. But we've got a couple of songs here for people to kind of get to know you and to get to know your sound. And the first one we've got is called American Girls. Talk us through how that song came about.
Man, I was writing with Michael Hardy, who's an artist named Hardy, and we wrote a ton, especially during this time. And me, Hardy, and Jake Mitchell had kind of a little writing group where the three of us wrote every other week, and we're having really good luck writing some cool stuff. And some other artists around town were starting to notice some of the stuff that we were doing, and Michael Hobby from 1,000 Horses was liking some of our songs and wanted to get in the room. So he came and joined the three of us. So it was a 4-way. And so we were kind of aiming, which, I mean, my vibe is Southern rock anyway, which is also what 1,000 Horses does. And they're badass, but we were like, all right, well, let's aim for, the Southern rock kind of vibe. And we wrote the song American Girls, and I freaking loved it, and I know that Michael liked it too, but for whatever reason they didn't end up recording the song, when they went into the studio, and I just asked him, I was like, man, you mind if I record that song? He's like, yeah, man, go ahead. So I tracked it on my last record, and it was just such a fun vibe. Felt like, it kind of encapsulated everything I felt like, my sound was. It's like Southern rock, but country and fun, up-tempo, kind of a good time song. And it's fun to play at all the shows and sing, have people sing along with. And it's just fun.
It is, and it's a catchy song that kind of gets stuck in your head. So let's take a listen to this one. It's American Girls by CJ Solar.
T-shirt sitting on a pine levee, hair in a bun, iPhone playing Tom Petty. American Girls dancing on the bar, Las Vegas yelling roll tide, whiskey in her hand, ain't bought one all night. American Girls, they know how to look like $1,000,000, sure look good riding around in a truck. Damn sure know how to break a heart, and there ain't no stopping them once they start. Lord have mercy, God bless the USA. Make a boy say damn when he sees the way they be looking when they drive by, make you wanna give Uncle Sam a high five. And every pretty city thing rocking them red high heels to the Tony Llama babes in the headfields. Can't find them anywhere else in the world. Ain't nothing like American Girls. Us American boys, we just can't get enough. Chase them all around cause we love to love American Girls. Go anywhere else and you know what you'll find, a bunch of fine looking things but nothing quite alike. Like an American Girl. Lord have mercy, God bless the USA. Make a boy say damn when he sees the way they be looking when they drive by, make you wanna give Uncle Sam a high five. From every pretty city thing rocking them red high heels to the Tony Llama babes in the headfields. Can't find them anywhere else in the world. Ain't nothing like American Girls. Like $1,000,000, sure look good riding around in a truck. Them sure know how to break a heart, and there ain't no stopping them once they start. Lord have mercy, God bless the USA. Make a boy say damn when he sees the way they be looking when they drive by, make you wanna give Uncle Sam a high five. From every pretty city thing rocking them red high heels to the Tony Llama babes in the headfields. Can't find them anywhere else in the world. Ain't nothing like American Girls. Ain't nothing like American Girls.
That one was American Girls by CJ Solar, and CJ, I mean, it's just got that vibe to it that sounds like you, really, I would say.
Yeah, man, it's just, it's a little country, it's a little Southern rock, and it's fun. So that's kind of what I love. I love being able to do.
Well, and you talked about kind of how that song came about, writing with different people, and you mentioned writing with Hardy, who I think may be one of the most underappreciated songwriters for what he's been able to do the last couple of years. But,
oh yeah.
But one song that you guys had, hit number one with Morgan Wallen, you mentioned it earlier, it was Up Down.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Not just the writing process for that song, but the whole kind of journey watching it go all the way up to number one.
Well, man, we wrote the song years ago at this point, and we wrote it at Michael's apartment, at Hardy's apartment, and we thought it was a cool song at the time, but we didn't even completely finish it for about a year. And then Hardy was starting to do his own artist thing, and he wanted to record it. So he had done a version and was playing at the Key West Songwriters Festival. And Seth England, who manages Florida Georgia Line and works with Morgan Wallen, heard Hardy and the other co-writer, Brad Clausen, play it both separately over the weekend, and asked one of them to send him the demo, and they ended up saying, all right, cool, we're going to cut it. And then we're like, all right, FGL's going to sing on it too. And I was like, no way, that's crazy. And then a few months later, it's like, hey, it's the first single. It's like, holy crap. And then it came out in November, and I don't think it went number one till the next July. So it's kind of just one of those things where I guess that's the way most singles are these days, is they take like
forever. They take
six
forever.
Six to 9 months to peak on radio. So I mean, that whole time, the first couple months, it's you're just really hoping it can kind of break through, and then once it gets about top 30, it feels pretty good. And as long as every week, as long as your spins keep going up, you feel pretty good about it. And then you maybe have a week or two where it doesn't, and you kind of go, oh my God, is it done? And it's a pretty nerve-wracking experience, because the difference between a top 5 song and a top 30, top 20 song is, a pretty big deal monetarily, and also just, being able to say that you had a song that went high on the charts. So it's just, the whole process is pretty nerve-wracking. And then even the night before it went number one, it was competing with a Blake Shelton song that week to go number one. And I know a lot of the radio DJs just said, oh, well, Blake's had a lot of number ones and Morgan hadn't had one yet, so we'd like to, that was pretty much what, the reason it went number one. I mean, a lot of people love the song too, but competing with, somebody like Blake Shelton, I was just like, oh my God, are we gonna get stuck at number two and not get it? And it was just really nerve-wracking. But fortunately it worked out, and we were able to have a little number one party and all that stuff, which is, stuff you kind of, dream about when you come to town. And, as you start meeting people, and, I don't even remember the first number one party that I went to. I'm sure I was an intern somewhere probably before Seagale. But I remember going to one of the first ones I went to when I actually got invited was Michael Ray's Kiss You in the Morning number one party. And, just seeing the writers just being like so emotional, and just like, I mean, even, when some of those guys have had multiple number ones, it's still a life-changing event, and, keeps you relevant if you, puts you on the map if you are a new writer, and just really cool. I mean, there's less people writing number one songs than there are playing in the NBA, so it's pretty impossible odds.
Yeah, that's a kind of a fun class to be in, though. I mean,
yeah,
that small, that tight knit. I mean, it's definitely got to be cool.
Incredibly small group of writers, and it's definitely, I'm just, so lucky to kind of be a part of guys that are, having hits and getting cuts on major label artists. Because I mean, even just getting cuts is so hard these days. So, but
Well, so when you're as a writer on a number one song, obviously for the artist, it kind of helps them become, more of a household name. At least it did for Morgan on that one. But on the writer side, does it help open up those doors on the back end so that, you can work with some people that maybe you haven't worked with or get the opportunities that you didn't
Yeah,
get before?
for sure. Yeah, it's just some good, it's just some justification for, other people to, want to work with you. And, if, even if somebody doesn't see that you wrote that song, if somebody they work with goes, hey, dude, we should write with this CJ guy, or he wants to write with you, and they, some of those big writers who might not know me will go, well, why would I want to write with that guy? And they go, well, he wrote that number one song, Up Down. And they go, oh, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, so it's just kind of like a thing. It's like, we wrote that song 4 years ago. It's like the day after I wrote that song, nobody cared, but the day after it went number one, got hit up by like 50 people to write, so it's like, well, I wrote that song 4 years ago, but okay,
Yeah, that's
so
fine. We can still do this.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that, people who might not have cared to write with you, before that happened, but so it's just, it just kind of, puts you in another league of people that only work with hit writers and stuff. And, I'm not like that. I got tons of friends that are amazing writers that just haven't had their break yet that I love to write with. But it's cool to be able to work with some of those people that are just so popular that they really only have time to work with big hit makers. So it's cool to kind of, get to squeeze into that every now and then.
Well, and that's not the only song that I think people may have heard that, they didn't realize that you wrote. You mentioned it earlier that you had a cut on one of Justin Moore's albums, Between You and Me, and then Jared Neiman's The Regulars, which I always play when I end up at the bar. There's a bar out here in a little town that I end up at, and I feel like I have to play that just because, that's my bar. And I feel like anybody that has a favorite bar can kind of relate to that song, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why we wrote that song, and I love that song, and Jared did a great job on it. But it's just kind of about, somewhat, being a regular at a bar, and there's so many people that can vibe with that because there's a lot of people that are regulars at bars. So we thought it was pretty cool to him. But yeah, and then. I had that other single on Jared a couple years back, which was actually my first cut ever, a song called Blue Bandana, that Jared had as a single, was my first cut and my first single. And it went to like number 30 or so on the charts. But that was a big, that was a big stepping stone for getting in the room with some of those people, because it was, even if the song, didn't go number one, it was, I was a brand new writer with a single a major label single, which is, I was 22, I think, or so, whenever, so it's like, I was a brand new writer with a major label single. Jared was still is one of my favorite artists, because he's just got such a cool vibe, cool sound. His first record, his first major label record, Judge Jared and the Hung Jury, it was like one of the first, if not one of the only, like country music albums that was kind of a concept record where there was kind of skits and stuff like that, and just so well executed. And so it was really cool to have somebody that I looked up to like that, like one of my songs and put it out and become a friend.
Yeah, because then you got a chance to work with him on a song that you put out called Just Another Day in the Country.
Yeah, so I was thinking that it would have been cool, that it was going to be cool to have somebody featured on that song. And I shot the song over to Jared, and I just said, dude, what would you think about singing this second verse? And he was just like, hell yeah, dude, I'm all about it. So he just came in and sang on that and did such a cool job, just putting a really cool vibe on that. And I, just blessed that he's just, cool enough to, to not care to come sing on, somebody who, especially, at that point, I mean, I had, when I was recording that song, he was the only guy that had ever recorded any of my songs. So it was really cool of him to come sing on that. And yeah, I always I forget when I go back and listen to it that because you know when I play it live now, obviously he's not there every night, but it always kind of throws me for a loop for a minute whenever I hear him singing that second verse. I'm just like, just kind of blows my mind.
Just kind of one of those surreal moments.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a listen to this one. We've got it as well. It's Just Another Day in the Country with CJ Solar.
Catfish now to a white oak tree. Yeah, we're gonna eat good tonight. Shot of dice sitting up on blocks. Been there since 85. We got a lot of trees. We drink a lot of beer. We own a lot of guns and we shoot a lot of beer. Yeah, fighting that static on a classic rock station. 2-lane Sunday drive. Proud bunch of hicks way out in the sticks, smoking that John Deere green. We do what we do, so rednecks cool. I guess we're all James Dean. I'm talking about slinging that mud, dropping that line, heaven on earth, hell raising count, swatting them flowers in the land of the milk and honey. Just another day in the country. Mama's out back with a plate full of scraps, feeding the blue tick hound. General store bought 24 more. I'm driving to Isles on down. Dip stain on the paint, Jesus on the dash, Reagan Bush sticker still stuck on the glass. It ain't a Cadillac, but it still gets me around and around and around. Proud bunch of hicks way out in the stacks, smoking that John Deere green. We do what we do, so rednecks cool. I guess we're all James Dean. I'm talking about slinging that mud, dropping that line, heaven on earth, hell raising kind, swatting them flies in the land of the milk and honey. Just another day in the country. Out here, if you get lost, you won't get found. If there's one thing we know, it's slowing down. Way down. Proud bunch of hicks way out in the stacks, smoking that John Deere green. We do what we do, so rednecks cool. I guess we're all James Dean. I'm talking about slinging that mud, dropping that line, heaven on earth, hell raising kind, swatting them flies in the land of the milk and honey. Just another day in the country. Just another day in the country.
I think that one does a pretty good job of kind of feeling more of that kind of the southern rock feel that you have. And you're about to head out onto the road and play some shows with, I think, 3 very distinct artists with Gary Allen, Hank Jr., and 38 Special. And I think it says a lot about your writing style and the variety of music that you can write, that you're going to share a bill with all 3 of them at different times.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've just been really lucky to have gotten to play a bunch of shows with all those guys already, and they're just, you know, legendary acts, so many hits, and it's amazing to get to open up for their fans because all the people that love those artists are just great music fans, and we always, I feel like we make a lot of fans when we get to open for them, but it's really cool that we can kind of do. I mean, Gary being newer country, Hank being old school country, and 38 Special being Southern rock. I mean, that's just all of those guys are right up my alley, and all huge influences at one time or another in my life. So it's just kind of one of those surreal things, and we're super stoked to be kind of spending most of the rest of the year opening for, on different weekends for those guys. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
If somebody was to come out and check out a CJ Solar show, even if you're just opening up for one of those guys, what is it that they can expect? Is it a real interactive show? Is it a sit back and listen?
Man, I mean, we're running around. It's pretty rocking about the whole set. We throw a couple fun covers in there, here and there. But I don't know. I mean, I got me on electric, another electric guitar player, bass, and drums, and that's it, man. It's just pretty
real
rock and roll, just rock and roll quartet, and we have fun with it, and we get the crowd involved a little bit, and it's just kind of a fun country rock kind of show.
Well, and I've got to ask you, is there a hair length requirement to be in your band, or is that just something that happened naturally?
Dude, what's funny is me and my drummer met like the week we moved to Nashville, and both of us had pretty short hair, but we were like, I was like, I'm growing mine out, and he was like, yeah, me too. So we've both just been growing our hair out, and our guitar player Stevie's been playing with us since about the end of last year. And his hair wasn't quite as long, but we were like, yo, bro, think about growing your hair out. So he quit cutting his hair. And then whenever we were getting a new bass player, he was like, this guy had super long hair. And we were like, yeah, we got to go with him. So it's definitely, I pretty much since I graduated from college, every band member I've had, including when Michael Hardy used to play on the road with me, and he had long hair back in the day too. So he didn't cut it till he quit the band. But yeah, everybody that's played with me has had long hair. So it's kind of just one of those things where we're gonna keep that going as long as we can.
So yeah, I mean, as you guys are walking through town on a day off, it's pretty easy to spot you guys then.
Yeah, we get a lot of, are you guys a band? That's like, no, we're just vagrants coming to rob your convenience store.
Is that a question that people actually ask?
All the time.
Really? Like, I've seen people kind of look in the murmurs, but I didn't know that there was anybody that actually went up and was like, are you guys a band?
Yeah, well, a lot of times they'll be like, are you guys famous? And it's like, well, if you don't recognize us, then probably not. It's like, what do you want me to say? It's like, yeah, I mean, some people really love me. It's like, I'm famous to somebody. Obviously, I'm not famous to you, or you would recognize us. But it's funny. But yeah, people are goofy.
Well, and you've got a brand new single that drops on August 16th, and you were kind enough to share it with us about 10 days early. It's called Coming My Way. It's a little bit of the Up Down, a little bit of the Leonard Skinner. Talk about that one.
Yeah, man, I wrote that one with Michael Hardy and Jake Mitchell, who we had that combo going for American Girls too, and it was kind of just one of those songs. We wrote it probably 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just always been kind of on that same loop of up, down, and, kind of in that vibe, but it's got the Southern rock dueling guitars, and, it's just, I've actually been playing the song kind of here and there for the last couple of years. It didn't really make sense on the last project. But it just seemed like it kind of was the cornerstone of whenever we were putting this one together. I knew that it was the first song that was like 100% yes. And then I kind of just built the other songs, around that one, because it was just like, it's just, it's my vibe. I mean, lyrically, it's just a fun song, but but it's a great. We've started open our shows with this, and it kind of just sums up, what our general vibe is.
And I got to hear it for the first time today, and I'm excited for everybody else to hear it because I really like the vibe, and I really like where you're going with that. So we'll let everybody take a listen to it. It's the new one from CJ Solar. It's called Coming My Way.
40 hours later out the door, I'm through with it. Putting in time feels more like doing it. Nothing to do and 2 off days coming my way. There's a 10-acre field on the back of the property. I'm sitting here pre-gaming, waiting on the party. I can hear them glass-packed Chevrolets coming my way. Coming my way like a Maker's Mark 750. Pass it to me, let it hit me. Oh hell, there's a bombshell heaven sent me. Coming my way like she knows that I've been looking. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? She said I'm up for whatever, down with anything. Coming my way. Yeah. Marshall Tucker playing, I'm taking me another sip, but he got something rolled up hanging off his lip. He just lit it, I don't know what's in it, but it's coming my way. Yeah, coming my way like a Maker's Mark 750. Pass it to me, let it hit me. Oh hell, there's a bombshell heaven sent me. Coming my way like she knows that I've been looking. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? She said I'm up for whatever, down with anything. Coming my way. Yeah. Coming my way like the morning sun any second. $20 on a $2 lucky seven. Coming my way like a Maker's Mark 750. Pass it to me, let it hit me. Oh hell, there's a bombshell heaven sent me. Coming my way like she knows that I've been looking. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? She said I'm up for whatever, down with anything. Coming my way. Yeah. Coming my way like the morning sun any second. $20 on a $2 lucky seven.
And CJ, that's your new song. It's called Coming My Way. That one comes out on August 16th. And I assume people will be able to find it on Spotify and Apple Music. But if people really love it, is there somewhere that they can go out and pre-order it or buy it the day that it's released? Because some of us are still kind of weird and like to pay for our music.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it'll be on iTunes as long as iTunes is still selling music. I'm going to be releasing one song a month for the next 6 months, and at some point in that, I'm going to print up physical copies, probably before all the songs are available, and we'll have those exclusively on my website if you want to hear all the songs early. But I'm just going to be releasing digitally one song at a time, kind of throughout the rest of the year, and then it'll be a 6-song EP when they all come out. It'll be on. But I don't have physical copies printed yet, but I'm working on it.
So keep an eye on iTunes or Apple Music or whatever they're going to call it moving forward. Keep an eye on Spotify. And then what's your website and where can they find you on social media?
I am CJ SOLAR Solar at on cjsolar.com. I got all my tour dates, links to music and videos and stuff on there. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those are the main social medias that I'm on, and I'm checking them all day, every day, and interacting with people and stuff. So definitely come find me.
Definitely. And before we let you go, we do this at the end of every podcast. We call it the Fast Four. 4 questions that always seem to be the toughest questions that I ask throughout the whole podcast.
All right.
So we'll see if you're up to the task here. We'll start with the first one. What's your favorite venue that you've ever played at?
Oh, man.
Told you these weren't easy.
You're right. Those aren't easy. Man, there's I think it's called Kane's Ballroom in Wichita, Kansas. It's like a really old school ballroom that we played with Kevin. I think it's Kane's. If not, it's another place in Wichita, Kansas. That's
people
like
there will know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's got like a big bowl like over the stage. Just a really old school vibe, and like a super old building, really beautiful. That's one of the coolest places, best sounding places we played. But there's so many great venues all over the country. It's hard to pick, but that one sticks out as being a pretty cool club.
Okay, how about this? What's the best show that you've ever been to that you weren't on the bill?
Oh man, when I was 15, I went to a guitar camp in Los Angeles, and Stone Temple Pilots had their first show back out from whenever they had broken up, and me and my brother-in-law just went, and I was a pretty big fan of kind of 90s grunge, just because of like my sister and my uncle were kind of grew up in that time, and Scott Weiland, the lead singer, who had passed away, and was super sad, but he absolutely blew my mind on what a front man could really do. He was one of the first real front men I ever saw, in person, who just like absolutely blew me away with just holding a crowd in his hand, and kind of left a big mark. And other than my 3 favorite shows ever are that, Kid Rock, and the Foo Fighters, just for the
those
energy.
Are solid. I think those are solid performances.
Yeah, I mean, all those are like, I mean, I've seen a ton of bands that sonically blew my mind, but just show wise, there's just something about the way those guys rock and just own a stage, and it's really inspiring. I mean, obviously I don't think I'm anything like those guys, but they're really inspiring, and kind of just showed me what that you don't have to just stand there and strum a guitar and sing your songs. You can really move around and get an audience engaged that way.
Well, and I think as a fan, we appreciate those kind of shows more.
100%. I know I do.
Okay, so if there's anywhere in the world that you could play, where would it be? Any venue.
Oh man, I don't know, dude. We were just talking about last weekend was our first out of country show. We went and played a little festival up in Canada, and we were just talking about it would be really cool to go somewhere overseas. My bass player was saying he wants to go play in Japan, and we all kind of decided that seemed like a pretty insane place to get to go play a show. So maybe one day we can go play in Japan.
There you go. Okay, last one. If there's anybody, and I feel like this may have already happened, but if there's anybody that you could split the bill with, alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, man. Well, last summer we got to open for Leonard Skinner, which was, kind of the end-all be-all for me, and those guys were unbelievable. But would love to, be able to meet, Ronnie Van Zant and some of the players that passed away in the plane crash, and since the original Leonard Skinner lineup would be really unbelievable. That's kind of like pretty much my favorite band of all time. So, but it really was kind of probably one of the the highest things on my bucket list ever, getting to open for those guys last summer. And actually, one of the weeks that we were opening for Skinnerd was the same week that Up Down went #1. So I was just like,
you're having a week of your life.
That was the best week of my life. That was definitely the best week of my life. At the time, I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. But looking back, it was like, man, what an unbelievable, couple days there, getting to play a couple shows with Skinnerd and having that song go #1. It was just like, wow, this is unbelievable. But yeah, I would love to meet Ronnie Van Zant back in the day. That would have been really cool.
That's definitely a good call. CJ, I appreciate you taking some time for us, man. We'll let you get on with your night, and we'll talk in the future. I'm sure we'd love to have you on here, later on.
Sounds good, bud. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you jumping on. And everybody, before you leave, be sure to hit that follow or subscribe button. That way you can see when the next podcast comes out. But you're listening to the Tea Party Podcast, where you find new friends and new music like CJ Solar. We'll see you in the next one.